Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Bitcoin Business Bureau. Once again, I'm your host, Litecoin Leader. It's Friday. I wanted to give you a little bit of sunshine as we wrap up the week. It's been a very good week in the crypto space. Once again, it's been a good year as well. But I wanted to talk about when you look at your portfolio and you look at all your different coins, and some are up, some are down. Sometimes you've sold, sometimes you haven't sold. Hindsight is 2020, and I want to talk about not having any regrets. Now, all of us have regrets that have been in the space for a while. So whenever you are trying, or whenever you're trading, or whenever you're buying or selling an asset, there's always going to be that 2020 hindsight of, I should have done this, I should have done that. So what I want to talk about is not having any regrets. Not quite like this guy, but in general, not having any regrets. So let's talk about some of the things that are commonly out there that are regrets for people. On the buy side, we talk about, I should have bought it lower, or I should have bought more, or I should have sold higher, or I should have kept more and rode it out longer. So what can you do to mitigate some of those? And that goes back to where we talked about having a plan. So when you have a plan, for example, when you want to buy more on the front, because you're going to know that you're going to sell some and you're not going to time it perfect. No one times it perfectly. But if you want to ride it as high as you can, that's where we go back to, you want to ladder out. You want to sell at certain points and not sell everything at the end. Because you want to buy enough on the front so that whenever you decide to sell, you still have enough to keep, that if it keeps on going and going and going, you still have that hodl pile that is always going to be there. So that mitigates the, I should have sold it higher, or I should have kept more. That risk of being disappointed because you sold too soon is mitigated by buying a little bit extra or averaging in. So that kind of goes back to on the downside. So if you buy something and the price goes down, instead of going up where we're all pleased and we're concerned about selling too soon, what if you buy it and it goes down? That's when you get the regret. Well, I shouldn't have bought into this. I timed it wrong. I should have waited more. I shouldn't have bought so much at the onset. Well, you can do, again, activate a plan where maybe you don't put all of your money in right into that particular project right away, and you dollar cost average in. That way you can average out your price, and if it goes down, then you're not in at, you said we want to get in at 10 and it drops to 7, you buy at 10 and you buy at 7, now you're in at 8.5 and it gets back to 10, now you're actually in a profit, instead of, oh, I just hope it gets back to 10 and I break even. So again, the regrets you can have, cutting your losses. Sometimes you want to say, like, if it drops 20%, I'm out. That's a perfectly reasonable option too, because there's always another project. So there's so many coins out there. There's 9,000 coins out there. So you can pick a project, and then maybe that's you make a profit on it. Maybe it's not as much profit as you could have made. Keep in mind that no one ever gets the bottom right, and no one ever gets the top right. You have only one person ever sells at the peak. Only one person ever buys at the bare minimum. So you're never going to be able to time it perfectly right. So you have to balance it out and just do the best you can. Just remember this old adage: no one ever went broke by taking a profit. So if you take a profit, be happy that you took a profit, because now you have more capital, you have more dry powder to put into your next project. And then maybe you mitigate your risk by going into 2 projects, or maybe you keep some spared. You can dollar cost average in something else, or maybe something else is doing not as well, and you put more funds into that and dollar cost average that project. So there are always ways to mitigate the different issues, but you're always going to have those stories, and we all have them. If you've been in this space for long enough, you have these stories, and I will certainly tell them over time. But I still remember one coin that I was in where I got in for pennies, and then it went up more than 10x, I think. And I'm like, okay, great. And I sold, and I made a profit, but I sold it all. Well, that coin continued to go on. It rebranded, and it went on and on and on. It went from pennies to dollars. I think it touched $100 at one point, and I didn't have any of it at that time. So there's some of the buyer's remorse and regret of, I should have kept some. I should have planned for that eventuality just in case that ever happens. And that's why I'm here to educate you and share some of my knowledge so that you can learn from my mistakes, and I can remind myself of my own mistakes not to do that again. And plan to keep some, never sell it all. Just as an example, not financial advice. This is for educational purposes only. Just one guy telling his story. But something to think about. If you buy into a project and you buy in like 10,000 of a coin because it's really cheap, and then you sell all 10,000. Well, what if that coin keeps on going and going and going and it never looks back? Think about that. You might want to only sell maybe 8,000 or 9,000, for example, and keep that 1,000 because it might just keep on going, be worth way more than you ever imagined it would be. One more thing to consider is that when you do take profits on a particular project, there's always the question, how much do you take? Do you take some? Do you take a little? Do you take a lot? And then there's the even bigger question of, what do you put it in when you do take profits? Are you actually putting it back into the US fiat system or another fiat currency? Or are you going to put it into a stable coin? And if so, which one? So that's something else to consider. Or maybe you don't put it into a stable coin or a US dollars, or you put it into Bitcoin or another crypto project, or just move it into a different project that's not doing as well and just rebalance your portfolio. These are all things to consider. But again, when you do this, if you're taking a profit, think about why you got into crypto in the first place. Are you really supporting the US dollar system? Are you really supporting the fiat? Or do you want to put it into at least a stable coin, so at least get out of that and maybe earn interest on your stable coin through a product like on Abra or another one that's out there where you can actually earn up to 10% on your currencies that are out there as you stay in the DeFi or crypto space. That's another thing to consider. But whatever you choose, don't have any regrets by doing it. If you take a profit, enjoy it. Know that you have more than when you started with, and now you can continue to grow your own portfolio. You grow your holdings. Don't look back. Looking back, you can look back to analyze, but don't look back with a jaded eye and say like, oh, I wish I had done this instead of that. That's something you can learn from. You can learn from what you did in the past and analyze, how do I improve upon things? How do I get better? But don't second guess yourself. Move your profits to where you think is the right answer. And if you don't know, there's never anything wrong with, if you have two choices, split it. Do half. Again, diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Cliche after cliche, cliche after cliche, but there's a reason these cliches exist, okay? When you take your profits, enjoy them. Diversify your portfolio. Don't look back unless you're trying to educate yourself, and keep pressing on and moving forward. So as we wrap up the week, and it's been a good week, do not be upset with yourself because maybe you weren't in the right project, or maybe you were in a project that did great this week, but you had moved out of it. Or maybe you had some XRP or some VET, but you don't have them now, and you're upset that you moved into something else that only doubled instead of tripling, or went up 20% instead of 40%. Again, you made a profit. No one goes broke taking a profit. You might want to consider taking some profits, not financial advice. But the way you mitigate some of this risk, again, is by having a portfolio of different coins. And what's one way to learn about having a portfolio of coins, like altcoins? Well, I heard someone is playing a game over the summer called Altcoinopoly, where he's going to introduce about 30-ish coins to everyone, especially for all subscribers. And it's a great way to learn all the different coins that are out there. Again, it's LitecoinLeader.com is going to be giving out a coin of the week for subscribers. But to advance that project and to advance the Altcoinopoly game, we're giving out at least 2 coins a week until the end of July. So hop on over to LitecoinLeader.com, subscribe. It's a fun game. There's a nice prize. But to mitigate this risk of, am I in the right project? Am I in too many projects? Am I in too few? Am I going to be in the right project at the right time? Have a balanced portfolio. Build that over there. Let us educate you on how to do just that and not have so much regret. So with that said, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your profits, and I'm going to close the drawer in the bureau for this time, and I'll see you on Monday.